Okay, are we ready to go, Jody? Not quite, looks like.
There we go.
There we are.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to negotiations, third session. Happy Monday morning. Nice to see you all. And we're going to dive right into a check-in and today's agenda. So Dave and Jim, I'll throw it to you guys.
Sounds good. Good morning, everybody. Glad to be back with you. It seemed like a very short weekend. So we're going to do the same check-in, excuse me. I'm ready to check out already. That's not a good sign. Same check-in as we did that we've been doing. Who are you? Position in district. How are you? Issues or elephants? Expectations. And we are going to start with Allison.
Hi, Allison Alter. I'm a social studies teacher at Horizon High School. I'm feeling pretty good and no issues or elephants. Expectations. Glad we get to go a little bit longer today, so hopefully we can get a little more work done this time.
Teresa.
Good morning. Teresa Barajas, assistant principal at North Glen Middle School. I'm feeling pretty good today, a little sore, did a lot of yard work yesterday, and but feeling good about that. No issues or elephants and expectations, just to get good work done today.
Deborah. You're muted, Deb.
Accommodations, that's a lovely thing. Deborah Blake, special education teacher, Arapahoe Ridge Elementary School. I am well, no issues or elephants today. Expectations to finish up sick leave bank and to move on to elementary plan time.
Shelley.
I'm Michelle D. Rock. I teach third grade at Meridian Elementary, and I'm feeling well today. And I'm also hopeful that we can continue our work from Friday, just kind of slide over through the weekend and get on a roll.
Heather Espinoza.
Good morning, Heather Espinoza from Wood Glen. I teach second grade. I'm fine, thank you, and looking forward to another productive day.
Bo.
Good morning, Bo Fobert, Executive Director, Curriculum and Instruction. I'm well today. No issues, no elephants, and looking forward to a productive session this morning.
Colleen.
Hi, I'm Colleen Gardner, sixth grade math teacher, Shadow Ridge Middle School. I'm doing well today. Got my escape room set up for my review, so I'm really happy. I have no issues or elephants, and my expectations are I'm so glad we have more time today so we can get more done.
Chris.
I'm Chris, superintendent, doing fine today. No issues or elephants. Looking forward to another productive day.
Heather Grecius.
Good morning, Heather Grecius, Director of Elementary for Student Support Services. Today I'm doing great. I had a great weekend. I have no issues or elephants, and I just expect to start checking things off the list.
And Heather, the minute you started talking, you bopped right in beside Heather Espinoza.
Thank God.
Just unbelievable.
Oh, makes me happy. Thank you.
Dorman.
I'm Dorman Land. I'm feeling great today. I don't have any issues or elephants, and I expect us to do good work. Hopefully, get some of the things maybe TA'd, who knows, from last week.
Nancy. You're muted, Nancy.
I said, I'm Nancy Leonard, retired principal, and I'm really not in Hawaii. It's just that my background in my room was so bright last time. So I'm feeling fine. Wish I was in Hawaii. No issues or elephants, and I'm glad we have the extra time today too. I think we'll do good work.
Laura Leppy.
Good morning. I'm Laura Lappy. I teach math at Holstrom. I'm good. I'm not packing this morning because the Tri-County Health said that we can't all be there. So I'm actually Tuesday, Thursday. So I'm less stressed than I thought that I would be. And we got a second day. So thanks whoever made that happen. So I'm way more calm. And my expectations are that
we will all do super awesome work and get all the things done. Hopefully all of you are more awake than I am. So you guys will do all the good stuff and I'll say yes to everything you come up with.
Dave Lockley.
Morning, Dave Lockley, president of DTA. I'm doing well this morning. It is very clearly Monday and not Friday because everyone is far more chipper this morning than they were Friday morning. I don't have any issues or elephants, and my expectations is just to keep rolling along.
Marty.
Excuse me, I'm Marty McCarthy, principal at STEM Launch. No issues or elephants, and I'm excited. It kind of feels good to do this in more or less back-to-back days. Like there's some momentum we can carry over. So excited. Good to see everybody.
Laura Mitchell.
Good morning. I'm Laura Mitchell. I'm on the Board of Ed and I am very good. We had a nice relaxing weekend and no issues or elephants. And my expectations are, again, what Marty said, I think it's great that we're getting more, our meetings are getting closer together and a little more time, and hopefully we can keep knocking things out and making progress.
Darren.
Good morning, Darren Oliver, principal at Silver Creek Elementary School. I'm doing well. It's Monday, but weather's nice and going to get some things done today with work. No issues or elephants, and expectations, again, get to that next step and really get deep into making some changes.
Kathy Plummer.
Morning, everybody. Kathy Plummer. I'm on the school board. I'm doing well. I have no issues or elephants. And like everyone else, I want to get work done. And I just need to call out Mr. Dorman Land because it looks like he's wearing a suit. And I think he wins for the best dressed of our meeting today.
Matt.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Matt Schmidt. I'm the principal at Pathways. I'm doing just fine this morning. No issues or elephants, except I got to figure out my calendar if we're meeting for 3 hours this morning, but that's all right. I can do it. That was not how I had it scheduled today. But yeah, happy Monday, everybody. I share the expectations of the group.
Mila.
I think on the 3-hour thing that we thought we should extend, but because we hadn't spoken to the group or warned anybody, that we kept today at 2, and I made all the subsequent meetings 3, starting on Wednesday forward. Dave, does that match your recollection of it?
That does match my recollection. I mean, if people are available for 3 hours, then, you know, that could work, but we did keep this one to 2 hours because we didn't warn anyone in advance.
So with that, I appreciate the enthusiasm for 3 hours, let's go, and the momentum is building, but I think today several of us have meetings right after, and probably we just need to keep it at 2 if we can do that. So we'll have a action-packed 2 hours. That's my expectation. I have no issues or elephants. I'm feeling great today. I'm the Chief of Human Resources. My name is Mila Shepard. Backwards check-in.
Sandy.
Sorry, that's just your Jeopardy answer.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was still trying to catch up from 8 to 10. Okay, 8 to 11. I thought I was crazy. I'm like, it says 10. Okay. Hi, I'm Sandy. Sandy Sorensen, science teacher at North Glen High School. Everything's going fine here so far. Expectation, yeah, let's get it going. I like the idea of going longer for the future sessions.
And Linda.
Good morning, Linda Walther, retired counselor and teacher. I'm doing well today and I'm ready to roll.
Jim.
I'm Jim. I'm one of your facilitators. I'm doing better than I have a right to be. No issues related to this conversation, and expectations are we'll move forward, get a lot done, and check out by 10.
And I'm Dave. I'm also one of your facilitators. I'm doing good. The weekend went really fast, but it was a good one. Beautiful, beautiful weather and really enjoyable. Doing great. I have no issues or elephants, and expectations is that in the 2 hours we knock off this the issue that we were talking about on Friday and get her done. And I want you to know that that's record time for going through a check-in. You guys went through that really quick. Good job. So if each of your straw design groups will assign a spokesperson, let's start with design team 1 and just tell us where you were when you left on Friday. So who's the spokesperson for team 1?
I think I'll go ahead and take that, Dave.
Thanks.
We didn't designate, and so I'll just jump in. So we typed into the story document that we've been kind of working off of what we really think is our finished straw design. So we're actually in a relatively good place. You guys can read it there. Basically, what we did was we mirrored the language that is in the temporary leave article for bereavement, and made it about, once someone has exhausted their leave after they've returned from a consecutive medical leave status. The reason why we use that phrase is because if someone returns from intermittent leave but is still in sick leave bank, they've still depleted all of their days. And so potentially being able to access it for non-sick leave bank related items. And then per somebody who's better at math than me, they thought of, instead of writing the number, the physical number of the cost of the sub day, that we use the term the current mode of substitute teacher rates, including benefits, as the cost for that buying of the day.
Okay. Anybody else from group 1 want to add to anything that Dave just said? And again, if you want to speak, please use the raise your hand function in the participants part. And remember, Dave Lockley and Mila, you'll have to wave at me because you don't have that option. So I have Heather Grecius.
Can someone just remind me what the last chart that we documented this stuff is called?
Yep. So it's in the shared drive for the IBS team, and it's sick leave bank. That's the name of the document.
And Dave, if you would email me the Google Doc or whatever that's in, I do not have that. So I need somebody
Sending it to you right now.
Nancy.
I don't have it either.
Okay, can I just butt in? Sorry. I think there's a confusion about which drive we're using, because there's a 2019-2020 drive, and there's just the idea negotiations. So I know I was putting stuff in the 1920 drive, and I can't find any of the stuff that Mila, you said was in there from Friday. So I'm wondering if we crisscross drives.
And Sandy, I think we got all of what you said, but you were glitching just a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the shared drive, and then it's called IBS Team Drive. There's no year on it, and I've just been dumping documents into the IBS Team Drive, not in any year.
That was a different one than I was using.
Ah, okay.
Okay, because there's one right here. It says I'm in shared drives, and it says 2019-20 IBS documents. That one?
No.
Okay.
Colleen, what are you pointing at? Go down.
But it's lower, like that one was up here and it's like 5 below it. That's where I found it. And it does say IBS, and then you open that and then it comes up sick leave bank story.
I see it. All right.
Thanks, Colleen.
There they are.
Oh, I do see the 2019-20 IBS documents. We should blend those together. Sorry.
It's okay. It makes sense
Yeah.
now. I'm like, wait, am I crazy? I'm not seeing any of these. Okay.
Okay.
And Dave, thank you very much. I did get it. I have it on my phone. So if I'm looking to the side, that's why, folks. So any other questions for team one? Or any other questions about where this goofy document is? It's not goofy, where the document is. Sorry, bad choice of words.
I
Oh,
had that document up because somebody sent me the link on Friday, but the shared drive, the second share, I have Sandy's shared drive that shows up in my shared drives list, but the one that Mila mentioned, I don't have.
Okay, let me add, make sure everybody's on that list. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
anything else for group one? All right, Strat Design Team 2, who's your spokesperson?
I guess that'll be me. I can start anyway, and then certainly anybody on the team can jump in. We too had some language that mirrored, and Dave and I did not talk about this ahead of time, but we too mirrored the language off of the existing our article, which is actually in our section. I copy pasted it in there. The only real differences are two, I think. One is that we asked that the additional temp leave days be used in the school year, within a school year following the extended leave of absence. The thinking being that you're going to accrue more leave the longer you're back, and that this ability shouldn't, well, it just seems like you're not going to need it more than a year after you took your extended leave of absence, that there's a window of time that we're trying to solve for. And so we put in the during the school year of their return from leave. And then we did get specific with the numbers, but I personally don't disagree with the idea of using some more generic language. We also did get specific about the nature of the purpose for leave, having to do with illness or disability of the teacher or their immediate family, not just any use of temp leave, but we narrowed it a bit to say, this is really essential uses of temp leave having to do with your own illness or that of, like the example we've been using a lot, the well baby check, that sort of thing. Those appointments that follow up. And so the last sentence, I guess, is the third essential difference, which would be not to exceed the current substitute teacher rate. And this is that sense of consistency with other articles in the document. People at the high end of our salary schedule would make quite a bit more money than people at the low end of the salary schedule. And that makes this a richer benefit than the existing language where people are paying the substitute teacher rate. So let me just stop there and see if there's clarification from the rest of the team or questions.
Anybody else from team 2 before I go to Dorman, whose hand's up? Anybody else from team 2? Okay, Dorman?
Did team 2 discuss the benefit or harm to the district or educator as a reason for putting in the illness or only allowing it to be that particular school year? Was there a particular harm to the district or benefit to the district or harm to the teacher or benefit to the teacher that we put that in? Or
Dorman, you glitched a little bit. Viola, were you able to get that whole question?
Yeah, he was asking if there was any discussion on our team about, particular harm to the teacher or to the district in our rationale for limiting it to the school year. And, I'll offer mine and then ask the team to jump in. as we understood the interests and the issue, it seems to be that upon immediate return, when your temp leave is exhausted, you're in this deficit mode. Over time, as you accrue more leave, you're not in that deficit mode anymore. So let me ask the team if they have anything additional to add to that.
I just feel like we didn't have time to get into a whole bunch of statistics. So Dorman, that might not have been completely worked out among us. Would you agree, team? It might not have gotten worked out yet.
Mm-hmm.
Dorman, do you have a follow-up question? I see your hand still up. Oh, thank you.
No.
Okay. Any other questions for Team 2? Anything else that Team 2 needs to add on what you did? All right, we'll move to Team 3. Who is the spokesperson for Team 3?
I'm happy to do it.
Okay, thanks, Heather.
So we just had a very simplified version of the same that just says the district will allow purchase of 5 additional days at the annual average sub rate plus benefits as determined on July 1st of the most current fiscal year. So pretty simple.
Okay. Anything else from Team 3? And questions for Team 3? Okay, seeing none, let me ask you this question. We can do one of two things. If you still feel like your straw design needs a little bit more shaping, whatever, we can go back to straw design for a little bit. And my sense is to send you back just to have you talk with your teams about the other teams' straw designs just for a few minutes. Then what I'm going to suggest, and this is up to you, but what I'm going to suggest is that we break it down into a small group to take those 3 straw designs, because they're very, very similar in a lot of ways. Take those 3 straw designs and come back with a like we always say, final straw design that isn't really final, but a straw design that melds the 3 together that we can talk about again. So what's the pleasure of the group?
I feel like we need to finish in my group.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you very much for saying that, Sandy. So let's go, Jody, if you'll give us 30 minutes on there, we can go into the straw designs for 30 minutes. And if you get done before that, I think you can just leave meeting and you can come back to here. So Jody, if you will set the timer for 30 minutes and put the straw design groups in their teams, we'll go 30 minutes.
Yep, I just set it for 31 minutes to just give you a couple extra seconds. It'll notify you before the time's up. So, all right, here we go.
Thank you, Jody.
No problem.
And do come back as soon as you're finished.
Yes.
Did I not get assigned a group?
Yeah, Jody, we got 2 folks hanging out there.
Okay. I was in group 1. I was in group 1.
I think I was in group 3.
I was in group 1.
Laura's in group 3.
I was like, wait, a new group.
I can just hang out here too, it's fine.
You 2 just wanted to chat with Jim and I, that's all.
Exactly.
And then Colleen's going to group 1.
Yes.
Yep. There we go, Jody.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem.
How are you, Jim?
You know, better than I have right to be. I'm glad the weekend's over. I was tired of working.
Just remember guys, we're still live.
Are we still live? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to put this up and then you might want to mute and turn your cameras off.
All right, sounds good.
Hello, big room.
This looks like team one, right?
We're number one. We're number one.
Sounds good. Well, rest of the teams will be back shortly, Dorman.
Dorman, are you making a statement?
Are we all back now?
I think team 3 or team 2 is still out.
We just got back.
Oh, that's you. All right. I think we should all be popping back in here.
There we are.
Looks like we are. All right. Sounds good. So hopefully that was productive. Can I start? Let's go backwards. Team 3 spokesperson, would you tell us what you did, Heather?
We talked a lot about the details of this, like what circumstances would be present to utilize these, you know, a lot of detail. And then when we looked at what the other two groups were doing, it looked like they were capturing what we were talking about. So I think we were landing on more of Team 1's statement that we really liked.
All right. Any questions for Team 3? All right, Team 2.
We were, we were kind of refining our understandings of the current practice around the bereavement pay. And you'll note that we just left it at the pay is the difference between the current substitute rate and their per diem pay. That I confirmed with our payroll manager that is the current practice in that other article that currently exists. I think the part that's still most different right now for us, our group and Team 1, and we were just beginning to talk about this as we came out of break, was they are referring to the accrued leave rules as reasons for using this extended time. And those are, I'll remind you, those are in section 22.1.2.4. And those rules are more, more comprehensive. They include illness or disability, dental work, serious illness or death in the immediate family or household, adoption, religious holidays, other employees' business, such as real estate closing, religious holidays, weddings, graduations in the immediate family or household, legal proceedings, financial and economic transactions that cannot be taken care of outside the normal school day, and leave for purposes of improving classroom instruction. And so we had not yet changed, and I'm not sure if we were going to or not. We hadn't quite hashed that out. The narrow reasons that were listed in ours, but certainly thought that was a point that we should talk about in this return session.
Questions for Team 2? Any questions? All right, Dave, Team 1.
So we, we went back and forth, listening to a lot of the suggestions and kind of talked through all of our stuff. And we made, as Milo was just pointing out, we went from just kind of a blanket, you could use the days, to trying to maybe put it into more aligned with the accrued leave, not wanting to kind of list out all the possible things that might be a legitimate, like we would agree to as a legitimate use. We also talked about, we had work to define immediate family for that accrued leave space, and also, wanted to do more work that kind of mirrored each other. And so that's kind of where we landed in that space. With the bereavement leave pay versus the what we were talking about, it's a little bit of scale of concern for what we were talking about. When we have bereavement leave, I'm not exactly sure how many people use that throughout the year and how many days they use that. But when you look at all 108 folk that took sick leave bank in the last 12 months, all of them were out of leave. So all of them would be having to figure out what the right pay differential is. And we were concerned about the cost that might occur to the district. And that's kind of where we were at. I think, if the pay, if we looked at like what it currently costs in general for the district and for the employee from a, what's happening in the bereavement leave space. I think that's something we're open to. Not knowing what those numbers are, we felt more comfortable with leaving it at the purchasing at the sub rate space.
Okay. Questions for team one? All right, so you're similar in the things that you've got on there. Mila, go ahead. Thanks.
Sorry, I just needed a little more processing time.
No problem. No problem. If I rush you, please do what Mila just did. Stop me, okay? Mila?
I do have a question about the intention behind the system, the sentence that talks about discussion between the CHRO and the affected educator for deduction. Can you say a little more about what's behind that?
Dave?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what it says in the current bereavement leave language to do that. And, the idea, my understanding would be in being able, that customary practice would be that the 5 days, whatever it ended up the cost, comes out of one paycheck, which is what it says. However, if there was, a discussion could be made to, you could agree to extend that over 2 paychecks or 3 paychecks or something like that. We didn't really have much discussion as far as the why behind it. We just copied and paste that off of the bereavement language.
That makes sense. Thanks.
Other questions? And I'll give you a little bit more time. Nancy.
My question is looking at this language that group 1 has and the language in the 22, in case of death occurs, 22.1241. Are we thinking this is going to replace that language? Because it's just broadening it from if it's a death to whatever it is.
Dave?
It was not our intention to replace that language. No, we were just mirroring some of the language difference, or to use it as a starting place.
But
Marty? Oops, go ahead if you've got a follow up, Nancy, and then I'll go to Marty.
I was just gonna say, it just seems like it's just broadening that language to where it could be used beyond a death in the family.
No, you're right that it would be one option of doing that if we went that direction. I forgot we did. I did forget we did do one other thing, just as a suggestion. If in our language, don't put an asterisk in that to create a definition, whatever we do decide to do for the sub rate, because sub rate, that term is used multiple times in multiple places across the contract, and with some inconsistent, sounds like potential practices on what that rate is. And so defining what sub rate is might be a important thing to add to the definitions page of the contract. So agreeing to what that rate is and then putting that in the definition section. Sorry, forgot that one addition.
Marty.
I think the key difference between what we're talking about here and the bereavement is that my understanding is that this benefit would be only accessible if you had access to sick leave bank. And so, by definition, your days have been used and you've already to be able to access the sick bank, there's been some kind of screening process for that as well. So with bereavement, you don't have, you're open to use that benefit even if you haven't used all your days and haven't used the sick bank.
Nancy, did you have more? Your hand's still up. Okay, just want to make sure. Any other questions, comments on any of the 3 straw designs? Laura, Mitchell.
Well, we had discussion and thought it might be important to clarify because this says that after you've returned that you could do this. And so the question we had was, are we going to say that you have to have returned from leave before you can do this, or you can do this and tack on to the end of you're already out of leave? We just wanted to make sure that was really clear.
Dave?
So ours stated the intent was that to be once you've returned from consecutive leave. The reason why we use that term was because people who are on intermittent leave are still technically under the guise of the sick leave bank and are still drawing for reasons connected to their medical condition. But they don't necessarily have access to, or they've already run out of their temporary leave days because they've been taken. And so if they got the flu or, had to take a loved one to the doctor or whatever, they wouldn't have days either, but they are still technically under the leave, their sick leave bank leave, their medical leave. They're still under the terms of it. And so what we were looking for is once you've returned from consecutive leave, so that you're no longer gone every single day, but you are either returned cleared to work or return to work in an intermittent status.
Dorman.
It's my understanding that if you are in sick bank and you've used all the possible sick bank possible, all your opportunities there are finished, then and you're still ill, you would apply for disability, short-term disability or long-term disability from para. So I think this is where if you come back, then you have these 5 additional days. If you're still ill, I think you'd be applying for short-term disability. I don't know.
Laura, did you get your question answered?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Other questions? Anything else? And I'll give you a little more time. So Mila, I apologize, I rushed the last time. Okay, so Jim and I were talking offline when you were in your straw design meetings. We're wondering if we could put a group together of 2 from each of the straw design teams to come back with a final straw design. And I know it's rushing things a little bit to have it on Wednesday, but let me ask you the question, is it possible that that group could get together before Wednesday and come up with a final straw design? If not, you do have Monday as well, so.
I believe that since we're really close, that we can take a stab at it electronically with some people on the same documents, go back and forth and have something by our next meeting.
That sounds great, Dave. Great, I see Mila nodding her head yes, and several other people doing the same. So if I could get a district volunteer from each one of the 3 teams. So somebody from team 1.
Matt is raising his hand.
Matt, thank you. Team 2 volunteer.
I guess I'll raise my hand.
Mila, thank you. Team 3 district person.
I'm happy to do it.
Thanks, Heather. From the association, team 1 volunteer. Dave? From the association, team 2 a volunteer.
Heather, do you want to fight for it? I'll do it.
Sandy?
I don't care.
Sandy or Heather, which one? Okay,
You're
Sandy.
good.
Sandy's
You're good,
on.
Sandy. Thank
All right, thank you. Team 3 association person. Thank you, Deborah. Deborah, you got it. So your final straw design team, again, which is not final, it's still in straw design, is Sandy, Heather, Matt, Mila, Dave, and Deb. Does that sound all right? And we'll have you bring back what you do at the beginning of the meeting on Wednesday morning. All right, is that gonna work?
Yeah, Dave, can you do me a favor and just shoot me and Mila an email with those names on it?
I can do that as soon as we're offline, okay?
Yep, no problem.
Okay, sounds good. So we are, I believe, Dave, to the Planning Time Committee report.
Yes. All right. So, last week I did drop this document into the shared drive. I know a couple of us are having issues. I'm going to send it to a couple of people that I know are having issues accessing the drive. But we can go from there. If you don't have access, just let me know and I can email you the report or have Mila do it.
Dave, I have
So-
Marty's hand up. Can I interrupt you real quick and go to Marty? Marty?
Yeah, Dave, I don't have access to those documents. I'd love to see it.
All right.
Thanks, Marty. Sorry to interrupt you, Dave. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. So it should be heading your way, Marty. So I want to, like I said a little bit last time, just recap a tad bit about what the charge was and what we asked the group to do, and thus the reflection in the work that you guys asked them to do. So as we've kind of worked through this elementary planning time committee work over the last 18 months, you guys have we've worked and brought a recommendation a year ago around how to solve some of our concerns and issues that have developed over the years around planning time and access to a consecutive, consistent 225 minutes of individual time, while still providing time for collaboration throughout the building and whatnot. That's what led to the recommendation for some potential language changes, and then also of shifting the school schedule up by 30 or more minutes in order to have greater access to the the day for planning and collaboration. Before I jump into the report, is it any questions about kind of where we got to where we are here?
I'll do that, Dave.
Okay. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't see the chat. So I'm really bad about talking and presenting and reading the chat at the same time. So if I miss something in the chat, I'm almost as bad as Dave Mussetter when it comes to that.
It is difficult, Dave. It is. Mila, would you also send it to Jim and I too,
Linda?
please?
Yeah.
It won't let me, it says I need permission.
All right. I'm going to download a copy of it and
Okay.
just send it to you in a regular old email.
Thank you very much.
And do that to Jim and I too, please, Dave.
Yep.
Nancy Leonard's
so-
got her hand up.
I need it too, Dave.
All right.
Sorry, Dave.
Send it to the whole group. Might as well. You
Um,
don't need it, you don't need it, but
Okay. I will work on that. All right. Now you're asking me to do technology and talk at the same time. We're pushing my skill set.
Would you monitor the chat room as well, Dave? Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm
Dave,
going to
we'll
teach
do it.
one
I'll
division
download it
in
as a
second.
Microsoft Word and send it to everyone in email.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mila.
I was going to say I was about to teach long division to Eddie here in a second. So we're gonna be really good. So after the presentation from, like a month and a half ago now, one of the terms and things that came up was that we use the term like, what does self-directed plan time? What is administratively directed time? What is collaboration time? What are all these different terms? How could they be defined? What would that look like in a day, in a physical day? And so the committee came together and took a stab at what the definitions could look like. in a contractual language kind of place. This isn't necessarily intended to be contract language, although we do have the starting and ending places highlighted in yellow from our current contract. Obviously, these are just definitions that were created based on the recommendation that was made. So the two-part recommendation that's reflected in here is the definitions of different types of time. And also that in order to do this, based on the schedule that's in the document, to give greater access to the day, that the self-directed plan time be within the contract day versus the contact day. Remembering that at elementary school, there is a larger differential in time currently between the end of the student day and the end of the teacher day that has created the conflict and has eroded away the time over the years. And then kind of defining what some of those times are so that we can clearly, so that teachers have clear access to that self-directed time. So the document itself defines those different sets of times and then gives an exemplar schedule about what that could look like in this setting if we had a 30-minute push to the day. So what I'm gonna do is give you guys, Dave, you tell me how long it should be, but some time to read through the document. And then we can take some questions, and then that'll probably push us up to the end of our time today, that we can pick up this conversation with further questions and process on Wednesday.
Yeah, let me give you 10 minutes. It's a kind of a long document and don't want to hurry you through it. So take about 10 minutes, go ahead and read through the document. And then Dave will exercise questions and things like that. And then I think you're right. I think we're going to be pretty close to the end of today's time. So we'll start with the straw design team on the last issue we were talking about, and go into this. And Dave, is it you and Mila's thought process that we'll go through the process on elementary plan time on Wednesday?
I mean, we've already started the process. We have some story, so we would just add to story. So bring up those charts, add to story, then go into interests, and then go see where we go from there.
And Mila, is it possible to get Cindy to type those charts up so that we can put them on the screen so that we have it? Mila, you're muted.
Darn it. I believe she already did.
Okay, great.
And I think that those stories are in the IBS drive titled 1920. So Dave and I, after this meeting or sometime later today, we'll get together, we'll consolidate the folders, and we'll make sure that the shared lists include all of you, and we'll try and get our digital lives a little bit in order here.
Sounds great. Thank you, Mila. And just so you know, Dave and Mila, on Wednesday, Jim and I are going to switch roles. So he'll run the show, and I'll type the Google Docs, type it into Google Docs. Dave, if maybe sometime you can explain to me how to go about doing that. So
I'll give you a tutorial. Don't worry.
Thank you very much, sir.
I can't get my hand raised thing. Sorry.
Sorry, Sandy, go ahead.
Interrupt? There are pictures in the 1920 IBS drive. There are pictures of all the flip chart papers. Just
Okay,
FYI.
great. I also have Colleen's hand up.
Dave, you were mentioning a 30-minute push. Is there a decision that I haven't heard about that came about for our schedule next year?
So this is a public meeting, and there has been no decision for what to do. I know that is still under consideration. What I would say is that right now, this recommendation is working off the assumption that their 30-minute recommendation is accepted and done by the district. Obviously, if that is not the decision that is made by the district, then the committee would recommend have a different set of recommendations. Remember, we came to you guys with kind of what is it going to look like if we do a 30-minute push, and what is it going to look like if we don't, with decreased access to co-curriculars and other issues. The pleasure of this group was to have us go down the path of working the 30-minute recommendation angle instead of the other one. Obviously, if need be, the committee will reconvene to work off of that other recommendation. Does that answer your question, Colleen?
Yeah, it just sounded, the way you were talking, it sounded like there was a decision made that I had missed somewhere. And I'm like,
Nope. Like I said, the pleasure of this group was to have us work off that 30-minute recommendation. So that's where this language came from.
Okay, go ahead and read through the document and we'll resume here in just a few minutes.
you gotta be kidding me.
Nancy, just so you know, you're still unmuted.
Sorry.
No problem. Dave, I still have a lot of people off screen, so as soon as people start coming back, then I'll start it up again. We haven't gone quite 10 minutes with the questions that we're on.
Okay. Dave, were you thinking about popcorning or going around the room?
I was just thinking about popcorning. As people have a question, have them pop their hand up in the chat room, and then we can go from there. And a lot of these questions are going to be probably directed at you or Chris or, you know, so on and so forth. So whoever's best to answer it, we'll go that route. We'll see how that goes, and then we'll go from there. Okay.
Okay. I mean, like I said, if there's a bunch of them, you might want to just go around the room. But,
yeah.
Because people can't necessarily see the order as well.
Right. Exactly.
So.
Would you rather have me go around the room? That's fine too, Dave. I see Colleen nodding her head yes. So if you, we'll do that. If you have a question, I'm just going to go down the list. And if you have a question, say question. If not, just say pass. I still have people offline though, so we'll wait a few more minutes.
Just nice to hear from people who don't usually talk. They usually have very insightful things to say, but they won't like interrupt to do it. So
very good point. Thank you, Colleen. The only two I still have offline are Allison and Bo. There's Allison. All right, so I'm going to repeat again what Dave and I were talking about when folks were still reading. We're going to go down the list just like we did with the check-in list. And if you have a question, ask your question, direct it toward whoever is appropriate. If you don't have a question, just say pass and I'll go to the next person. So Allison, question.
Sorry. My question is, I'm just looking at these sample schedules and like the one at the very, very bottom, it's like 5W, 5M, 5Z, 4Y, 4B. I don't understand what I'm looking at.
So I don't know what that 4B thing you're talking about is, because that's not on my copy of it. So basically what the numbers.
Am I looking at the wrong copy?
Could be.
No,
Oh
she's
yeah,
looking
you're
at
looking way
schedules.
too low. Sorry.
Oh.
That's a master special schedule. Don't worry about that.
Oh, so I
The only
shouldn't
one
have
you need to
looked
be,
at that.
yeah.
That's what took me so long. I was trying to figure out what.
Nope. What I was trying to, I stole a sample special schedule of what that could look like in a 3-round rotation.
Okay.
I've been doing a lot of elementary scheduling, and one of the things we had to figure out was 0.8 schedules versus non-0.8 schedules. So don't.
Okay, I might have
There's
more
been a lot
questions.
of
That was the real.
there's been a lot of work in the elementary space. Basically, those are just like a 3-round rotation for specials is what that works out to be.
Okay.
The time for meetings, what we're looking at is just that first page. Sorry.
And we'll come back to you,
There's a lot
Allison,
of
if you have other
overlap in these
questions.
groups. Sorry.
No problem. Teresa.
I'm going to pass at this time.
Thank you. Deborah?
I'm noticing that the term educators is used instead of elementary educators. Would that affect middle and high school? If we just use the term educators, does that affect middle and high school? And if so, were there any middle and high school representatives on this? It was my understanding this was supposed to be elementary plan time.
Yeah, so I can address that. So in practice, the 225-minute language for what you see down there in 27.5.1 is currently in practice used in high schools and middle schools. Whether we use the term elementary educators or teacher educators, we actually don't have plan time defined for middle and high school anywhere in the contract. And so, that was the term educator was just to refer to educators, but we also don't have it for special educators, SSPs, and any other level. And so we're trying to meet a need to match language because we don't have anything else in the contract that defines plan time. We're currently using this elementary language in other spaces, which is inappropriate.
Okay. Shelley.
All right. Well, I think my question is somewhat related to Deborah's. I'm going to try to maybe just simplify this for the purpose of understanding it. It's my understanding that the work of this committee is to try to create more plan time for teachers. In the process, it sort of feels like, well, I'm just going to say as an elementary teacher, this somewhat feels very stifling. It looks to me, if I'm looking at it correctly, like 1 out of every 2 of the plan times that are being created for each day are being either directed for teamwork or administrative work. And I'm just wondering how that relates to the amount of time secondary teachers have for plan time and directed time. I know that's simplifying it because of all the definitions for self-directed and administrative directed and collaboration. Yeah, I just have a lot of questions about. Yeah.
Yep. So I can address part of those questions. So in the section near the bottom, right before it talks about 27.5.1, it talks about each building creating the plan for the amount of self-directed collaboration and whatnot, with the 225 minutes being the minimum, and that done through a shared decision-making model. The reason for the schedule as is was wanting to figure out what it would look like and how it would have to work with those blocks set up. You could change the colors of those blocks, but you couldn't have less green blocks in the schedule matrix. It was the exemplar is not a what it should be, but a what it could be as a minimum space in order to meet the language and the rest of the agreement. We talked about whether or not we should increase the number of minutes to 225 higher than 225, but we didn't think it was within the scope of the work that we were doing, because we were asked to address the language definitions, not change the minimum time for plan time, self-directed plan time.
Heather Espinoza.
Oh, thank you, Shelley. I carry your same wonderings and concerns, as well as Dave, you alluded to it, but that 0.8 sample schedule that ensures equity of time for those schools that will be experiencing 0.8 specials. So if there's a sample of that in the works that we'll be able to look at as we move forward with this conversation.
Not with this conversation, but when we bring the elementary specials MOA, the staffing schedule, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Because
sorry, Dave.
Although I was working on them in the same space, using some of the same data, it's a separate recommendation.
Okay.
Bo.
No questions at this time.
Thanks. Colleen.
Can I take Bo's question? Just a second. So if we change that 27.5.1 to say educators, does that mean middle school and high school will also be affected by the rest of this language?
So once again, I'm just talking about that the only two language changes we made were in those two sections. You asked us to make a definitions section or to define what those different times could mean. And so we did. Whether we merge those into the contract, whether we put that as definitions, that is to this body to make that decision.
What I'm getting at is that if changing that to educators means this also applies to middle school and high school, and K-8, it mattered last year. K-8 got stuck with stuff that was supposed to be just for middle school. If we change that, if it affects the rest of them, then I feel like middle school people and high school people didn't get a voice in the rest of this, and we might have some very unhappy people.
Yeah, like I said, the charge was to write definitions language based off of the recommendation. So that's what we did.
And Colleen, that could be part of the story as well when we get to it.
Okay.
Chris.
So I had some questions about 27.5.12. In terms of the exceptions that are referenced in there, it wasn't clear to me who might determine that. If it's the administrator making determinations about that, is it a shared decision-making process? So clarity about how exceptions work would be helpful. It also seemed that there was a final sentence about exceptions made up to 10 blocks per week. It seemed like that was applicable to specials teachers, but not entirely clear. So those were some questions I had.
Yeah, so the blocks you're talking about is definitely what's used mostly in the elective space at both middle, elementary, and high school. Because, and especially in our middle and elementary schools, because of the crazy just scheduling nature of them, it's sometimes difficult to protect the number of blocks that they get in order to actually receive plan time. My elementary principal colleagues will, and probably Teresa as well as a middle school person, just with those staggered schedules, it sometimes becomes difficult to ensure that specials teachers get all of the blocks of just all of the time they have without it being carved up into minuscule, unusable blocks of time. And so, yeah, that section is definitely, and that's in the old language as well. or in our current language, I should say, is definitely geared towards our electives and specials group. And I'm sorry, Chris, what was the other part of your question? Oh, sorry, who decides the exceptions? So the exceptions are really only for those groups. So for kindergartners, when we had the 0.5 kindergarten schedule, was why that was there. And then for specials teachers, those are the two exception categories that are made.
Heather Grecius.
It's just more of a question. I'm curious about attending IEP meetings falling under collaborative planning time, which I agree with, but do you feel like teachers would feel like they're limited in only being able to attend IEP meetings during that collaborative plan time? Because that could be a scheduling nightmare.
I'll just say I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that that will probably come up, and that did come up in conversations and comments in that definition space. Hence why I reiterate that you asked us to make definitions, not final contract language of what that could look like.
Dave, in case you didn't see the chat, Sandy has an issue or an elephant.
Okay, Sandy.
Just sounds like we're entering debate here. I mean, is this a question answer, or because I mean, some of us obviously have issues with this wording, but others are just asking questions. So I'm just wondering, I don't know, process question. Should we go ahead and go into story, or are we still clarifying this? I just want to be clear.
I think Sandy, from my perspective, there's some questions that kind of border on debate, but I think we are trying to stick with the clarifying questions. And to Sandy's point, folks, when you get to the story and when we get into interest options and straw design, let's leave anything that's close to debate to that. So if you've got something to clarify, please ask the question. But if it starts into the debate bit, then let's save that for when we go into story, interests, and options. Those will come out. That's what I was trying to tell Colleen when we were on there. Thank you, Sandy, for the question. Dorman.
I have no questions at this time.
Nancy.
No questions at this time either. A comment when this, I printed mine out, but when it came over, the master meeting schedule stuff at the bottom is really messed up. If there's a way to get that, Dave or Mila, it would be helpful to see the example. Thank you.
Sandy, I still see your hand up. Are you still okay? All right, thank you. Laura Leppy.
Heather Grecius asked my IEP question. That was mine. But my other question was, is this document, we had talked about it in the past of being elementary buildings versus elementary teachers. Is this still considered an elementary building with definitions and such, or is it for all elementary educators?
So I'm going to just state again that the only two recommendations on language change came in the space of talking about self-directed versus administratively directive time, and the self-directed being inside the contract day, and then the adjustment to the term educator at the bottom. The rest of it was the definitions that this team asked the group to create.
Okay, I just didn't know, because like all the like schedules and such would be elementary buildings versus K-8 elementary educators, because our schedule is so wonky.
Yep, like I said.
Okay, Dave, do you have any questions for yourself? You're next on the list.
Only why do I keep having to be the one talking about this stuff?
Marty.
Can I just summarize for understanding, and then Dave, maybe you can just confirm that I'm summarizing correctly. it looks to me like there's no real change in language around planning time. In this proposal, it's the same, with the exception of and then definitions, we would decide whether or not we wanted to add those to language in the future. So I just want to clarify that's the task and the role that we're going to be embarking on.
Yeah, so I mean, there were, like I said, 2 language changes made as I listed out with the specific pieces there with 27.5.1 and in 27.5, transitioning the self-directed time to being within the contract day instead of the contact day, and then and a little bit of a preamble, and then talking about educators to match current practice and application of the language within the district.
So I have 7 people on the list. We're getting a little short on time, but I'd like to at least complete the list if that's all right with everybody. Laura Mitchell. Okay. Darren.
None at this time.
Kathy Plummer.
No questions.
Matt.
I don't have any questions right now.
Mila.
No questions.
All right. Sandy Sorensen.
No questions.
Okay. And Linda.
I have no questions concerning the definitions.
All right. So we are at 9:54 right now. So let's do this, Dave. On Wednesday morning when we come back, if you think of questions between now and then, we'll just do a popcorn on that day to finish it up. And then we'll go back into the process with that. Does that sound all right, Mila, Dave?
Yep.
Anybody else? All right. So we will go ahead and do our checkout. Just a thought for the day, starting with Allison.
Interesting.
Okay. Teresa.
Productive.
All right. Deborah. Deborah, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear you call me.
No problem. Sorry.
Sorry, processing. That'll be my word, processing.
All right, sounds good. Shelley.
Tricky.
All right. Heather Espinoza.
Good. We're getting close to checking something off the agenda.
Bo.
Progress.
Colleen.
Stifled, because I think if we had 1 more hour, we could really get into this. So I'm bummed that it didn't go till 11. But other than that, it was good.
All right. Chris.
Progress.
Heather Gracious.
Good morning.
Dorman.
Excelente. Nos vemos miércoles.
Nancy.
What he said.
Laura Leppy.
Super stoked that we got some straw design stuff and looking forward to Wednesday.
Dave Lockley.
Encouraged.
Marty.
I'd echo Dave, encouraged.
Laura Mitchell.
All the above.
Darren.
Understanding.
Kathy.
Forward.
Matt.
Movement.
Mila.
Slow but steady.
Sandy.
To Dorman's comment, yo también.
Linda. You were muted, Linda. I didn't get it.
Concerns.
And Jim?
Quick question. Are we going to start with the sick bank issue, get that straw, and then move to this?
Correct.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
And you guys do great work. Really, really enjoy working with you. We are 3 minutes early. Have a good 3 minutes. Take
Or
care,
longer.
everybody. Or longer.
Bye, everybody. See you Wednesday.